Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the Railway. Today I'm looking at yet another brand new release by Hornby. Just recently, Hornby finally released their brand new LNER Coronation coaches. That's right, LNER Coronation coaches, not LMS ones. So this is a brand new range of coaches which consists of 4 different pairs of articulated coaches, which look beautiful by the way, plus an observation car for the back of the train. Now the weird thing about this range is it's gone. As far as I could tell, every retailer and Hornby themselves have sold out of these coaches immediately and you can't get them anymore. Now, to me, initially, this seemed really strange because that's not what I was expecting of these coaches. I thought these coaches were going to be very niche, a little bit hard to sell maybe. I thought they'd stick around for a long time. So what I suspect has happened here is that Hornby has erred on the side of caution with these coaches and they've not produced that many of them. And I think that's because these coaches are just quite niche. They didn't build very many of these in real life. There was less than 30 coaches built in total, I believe, and they were also used for a very specific use case. They were used for expresses between London and Edinburgh, and that was pretty much it. So for modelers, you're not going to be able to buy these coaches and use them all over your layout with all sorts of different trains. No, these were supposed to be hauled by an A4 on that specific express. So there's kind of limited appeal to these coaches. So I think the danger for Hornby with producing coaches like this was that they would produce thousands of them and then there would be too many and they would be left in stock to be sort of reduced down to half price, and then Hornby have just wasted loads of money on producing models that they've had to sell for a few pence, or what, exaggeration, but you know what I mean. So as a result, maybe they've gone a little bit too far because literally these coaches have sold out immediately, which has meant a few things. First of all, the prices were pretty high and they stayed high. I mean, the pairs of coaches were £149.99 full RRP. Some retailers didn't appear to discount down from that price, and when they did, they were still pretty expensive at £134.99. And the observation coach was £81.99 RRP, which is quite expensive for just a single coach. So the big question is, are these coaches going to come back? On face value, you might say, well, they sold out immediately, that's a success. Yes, we'll almost certainly see another batch, and maybe we will. But also you've got to think, if Hornby invest in another batch and then it turns out the demand was almost met with the first batch, then they're going to have that situation that they were trying to avoid, which is loads of models left in stock. So we may never see these coaches back again. Anyway, on to the review. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but for me, I couldn't justify buying the entire train because I didn't do the maths, but it would have been hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So I thought, what can I review that kind of epitomizes this train and gives a really good idea of what it's like? And the answer was, of course, this. The kind of special coach in the train, which is the observation coach. So I bought mine from Model Railways Direct for £67.49, which is a decent discount from the full RRP, but still quite a lot, of course, for a single coach. But like I say, this is quite a niche product. I don't suspect they produced that many of them, so I guess that kind of explains it. But it does beg the question, what are these coaches like? Did Hornby get them right? And do they have the details and features needed to kind of justify those very high prices? Well, let's find out. Really been looking forward to this one. Finally, it is here. Alright, so as you can see, this coach actually comes in its own special packaging, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. And I think it's quite awesome, actually, that Hornby seem to have put so much effort into a train that you would think would have kind of limited appeal. So this has really had the kind of special treatment, hasn't it? Anyway, let me show you the end of the box. So the coach I've got here is R40227. It is the LNER Coronation observation car, and it's number 1719 Era 3. Good that they've got the era on there. And then if I turn the box onto its end here, you can see a brief history of these LNER Coronation trains. So if you want to, feel free to pause and read that, although I will give you a bit of background on these later on. Okay, well, I've not had this box open yet, so I think it's time to open this up for the first time and see if Hornby got these right. We've been seeing development sort of articles, we've been seeing photos of samples. Finally, we're going to see the actual model as it was released. Right, great packaging this. It's packaged just like a Loco really, but just in a smaller box. And there it is, nestled in foam. It's quite a short coach actually, isn't it? Yeah, very, very interesting. It is a kind of a pity that I didn't get the full train. And now that they've all sold out, it may be that I could never get it. But yeah, I got the part I was really interested in. Anyway, we've got a bit of paperwork here, some basic instructions. Quite interesting that we've got instructions for coaches here. So, Coronation coaches accessories. We've got 2 vacuum pipes, a solid Buckeye coupler, tension lock coupler, and front end coupling bar for the observation car only. Interesting. So we've got some drawings below which show some of the different couplings. We've got what look like, I think, magnetic Buckeye couplings. I think so. We'll have to take a proper look at these. And then if you want to, you can even fit a tension lock to the end of the observation car. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but I am all for Hornby giving people the choices to do whatever they want, so that's great. All right, more on coupling. Right, so this is more for the twin sets of coaches, so it doesn't apply to the observation. But just out of interest, this is how they couple together. Clip the prong into the centre rod of the shared bogie. All right, well, it looks fairly straightforward. Corridor ends. So it says extra corridor connection options are supplied with the model. So you've got a streamlined connection or a corridor connection. You can see we've got the drawings of those on the right. And then there's connection covers. Yeah, very, very interesting. You can see down here. So there's been a lot of thought and attention put into these coaches. And I suppose that is what you'd expect given how much they cost. But yeah, these are serious business, aren't they? Right, let's have a look at those accessories then, see if I can get my head around the couplings provided with this. All right, so we have got some corridor connector here, and this has magnets on it, as you can see, so it should just snap in place. Fascinating bit of design that. And then in here we've got the couplings. So we've got sort of permanently fixed Buckeyes. So these are not magnetic, they're just fixed together so you can couple the train permanently, which of course you probably would do. You've got your NEM tension lock, and then yeah, we do have a magnetic style Buckeye here, which of course allows you to disconnect the train if you want, plus the vacuum pipes mentioned, so that's all good. Right, let me see if I can get this out then. Ever so slightly nervous because this is one of the most expensive coaches I think I've ever had, and my goodness. Yeah, the sort of chrome trim is outstanding on this. Some of the samples had this looking really ropey, and I was a bit worried about how this was going to look. Oh, dearie me, that is incredible. Right, let me try and get this out. I might try and pull it with the plastic. All right. Okay, here it is. And yes, I'd say it's a reasonably heavy coach, actually. Although, as you'd expect, it does seem to be mostly made of plastic. Wow, so the first thing I'm noticing, it's not the sort of level of detail or anything like that. It is very much the decoration. Yeah, and mainly that chrome trim, actually. Look at the way that is shining. That is a genuinely awesome effect. I think a regular painted finish would not have cut it for these coaches. And you can just imagine what a full rake of these, all with this trim, would look like. Absolutely amazing. All right, but it does seem to be a very detailed model as well. And of course, we'll take a much closer look at the level of detail in just a second. First of all, though, let's have a bit of background on the LNER Coronation trains. The LNER Coronation was a train introduced in 1937 to mark the coronation of King George VI, and it was a streamlined train consisting of these coaches plus a streamlined Gresley A4 to match the coaches and haul the train. It was the LNER's flagship express service and was capable of running the journey between London and Edinburgh in just 6 hours. A train would be made up of 4 pairs of articulated coaches and, usually but not all the time, this observation car at the rear, totalling 9 coaches in all. In total, 26 coaches were built, including 2 observation cars, but after the Second World War the trains were split up and the coaches were used as general passenger stock, thus kind of losing their former grandeur. The trains would never run in complete sets again, unfortunately, although today both observation cars do still exist. One of them has been restored to its original condition, which is awesome, and the other exists as modified by the railway to improve visibility for passengers and to make it a bit more maintainable. So for the observation cars at least, the rate of preservation is 100%, which is pretty unusual. So there it is, up close and personal for you, Hornby's brand new LNER Coronation observation coach. And what an incredible looking model this is. I mean, have you ever seen anything quite like this in 00 or HO? Well, I can answer for you. The answer is, of course not. Look at this thing. Now, this is a very expensive coach, right? And in the past, I have been very hard in my reviews on some expensive coaches. I'm thinking, for example, of the Bachmann LMS Inspection Saloon. That actually cost quite a bit more at the full price than the Coronation coach did, and yet it was frightfully basic. It was missing all sorts of features and details. Really disappointed with that. If you're interested in that review, check out the link up in the top left corner. So yeah, I do go hard on manufacturers when their expensive coaches don't live up to expectations, because it is the customers at the end of the day, and only the customers, that keep these manufacturers in business, and they don't deserve to be ripped off like that. However, I am not going in hard on this coach for what it costs, because in my opinion, this is worth every penny. This is a fascinating and almost unique vehicle in real life. I mean, there's only 2 of these in existence, and one of them doesn't look like this anymore, so it's a very, very niche thing indeed. Yet it's been done excellently, and more than that, it does have the details, it does have the features, it's got all sorts of things that I've never seen before, new production techniques, which we'll get into later on. I mean, if any coach was going to be worth almost 70 quid, which is a lot of money, I'm not downplaying that at all, it is expensive, I get that, but if anything was going to be worth it, it would be this. So let's get into this. First of all, look at the profile of this coach. They call it a kind of beaver-tail shaped design, and you can see why, because the back here is so streamlined. I mean, the back starts to curve down almost behind the rear bogie, so we've got a lot of curvature here. And right at the end where this rear observation window is, the ceiling is very, very low over the seats. It must have been an incredibly odd experience riding in one of these coaches. The main thing then about this is the decoration for me. It has been done wonderfully, mainly because of this foil effect. Now, the instructions have mentioned that this is quite fragile, so when you handle the model, you've got to try and avoid touching these parts if possible. But yeah, I've never seen this effect before on a model, at least not that I can remember. It's not electroplated, as you might think it would be. It is actually some sort of foil that they've applied to these parts somehow. I don't know how, but it must have taken some real precision, and I have to say, the effect here is mesmerizing. Mine is fully intact so far. I've kept my fingers off it, and out of the box, none of it has been damaged. But yeah, this effect is just great. And of course, we've got the sort of trim as well, the lining, all done with this foil effect apparently. Absolutely amazing. Also, I love the livery and the way this has been painted. You can tell that this has been designed to run with an A4. This main body is very sort of garter blue coloured, and the wheels are very reminiscent of the A4 with the sort of white lining and the red centres. We've also got some new colours though that the A4 didn't really have, at least I don't think. We've got the sort of lighty, minty, greeny blue around the windows, which looks amazing. And then of course we've got the sort of silver roof as well, which makes this look a very grand coach indeed. So the decoration is just outstanding. The level of detail, I think outwardly seems quite basic, but actually it's not. You just have to look a little bit more deeply in order to see it. So, for example, the coach actually has this skirting on it, which I believe was later removed because it was a bit of a pain for maintenance, but this has it because it's in original condition. So you might say, well, it doesn't have much underframe detail, but it does. Looking underneath the coach, you can see we've got full underframe detail, which realistically didn't need to be there. You can't actually see it when the coach is sitting on a piece of track, but it is here, so that is awesome. We've also got proper metal buffers, which are sprung, at least they are on the front end. That's really good to see on an expensive model. The rear buffers are not sprung for some reason. I don't know why the front ones would be and the rear ones not, but they're still made of metal, which is good. And we've also got pre-fitted lamps on the front buffer beam here. I don't think these are going to work, but we'll certainly take a look and see if they do. Really nice feature that, and we've got a proper movable screw link coupling fitted to the front buffer beam as well, and that was pre-fitted. Really, really nice to see that feature. Let's take a look at some more of the details then. So the bogies are very nicely detailed. You can see we've got a lot of molded detail around these bogies, and the beautifully painted wheels just finish off this effect absolutely brilliantly. We've also got the very detailed doors with the door handles, which also have that sort of foil effect on them. That is awesome. And the windows are very nicely produced as well. We've got the full window frames with the foil on them. Again, lots of different details picked out and such. It looks great. The roof is fairly basic, but still, even here we have separately fitted roof furniture, which has been nice and straightly applied. And then around the back here is what the corridor connector looks like out of the box. Although, look, you can remove this. It's attached by a magnet, which is just incredible. And then you can fit a different end to it if you want, depending on whether you want it streamlined or whether you want it to have the standard corridor connector. I mean, these features are just great. So that's two new features that I've personally not seen before. And we'll get onto the last one in just a while. Anyway, other features include the kinematic couplings. So this NEM tension lock at the back, that's kinematic, and of course you've got lots of coupling options there. We've got some detail on the back of the coach here. Most of this detail is just a part of the moulding, but it looks absolutely fine. And of course, if you fit the other end that comes with this, you won't even be able to see that anyway, so fair enough. We've also got pickups on all of the wheels here. That's because this coach does have lighting. Get that. If we look inside, yeah, you can see the LEDs lining the roof of this thing. So this coach and the other coaches in this range as well, they're all lit. And we've got all-wheel pickup, like I say, using the axles, not wiper pickups, so we've not got loads of drag. As you can see, this moves quite smoothly, which is important, especially if you're going to be building a 9-coach train, because an A4 hauling a 9-coach train with wiper pickups would not be a very happy A4, would it? Unless you got the 00 die-cast one or something. So yeah, smart design, very, very smart design from Hornby. But we've not seen the best part of this model yet, the mind-blowingly best part, and that is the interior. So we've got the main lounge, the observation lounge if you like, which is full of these chairs, and they're not just sort of uniformly moulded in place. It looks as though they've been sort of individually placed almost, all at different angles. It looks very, almost informal really. A beautiful effect, and the pattern on these chairs is absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like this before, and what they actually did apparently was to float the sort of textured pattern on a liquid, dip the chairs in, and as the chairs go in, this film sort of attaches itself and conforms to the shape of the chairs, and it sort of textures it like this. It's an incredible effect, and I don't think I've seen this technique used in model form before. I mean, not that I know of anyway. And there's far more to the interior than that. We've got this kind of UV wood effect on this surface here. We've got the arch midway through the observation lounge, which has this kind of Art Deco painting on it. And then the corridor over on the other side, that has the UV printed wood effect on it as well. I mean, this is the most detailed coach interior I have ever seen from Hornby. A lot of the time, they're far more basic than this. So yeah, super detailed coach interiors seem to be coming into fashion. I've only seen a couple of coaches like this. I mean, one that really sticks in my mind is Rapido's dynamometer car. That had a very detailed interior, but that cost a lot more than this did. I think for the £67.49 I paid, this kind of interior is way more than I was expecting. So yeah, a fantastic, fantastic interior and a massively impressive coach overall. The build quality is excellent, the detail is top notch, and while it was expensive, I do think the model actually reflects the price pretty well. So yeah, just great, just incredible. They have really nailed this. I can't speak for the other coaches in this range, but if they are produced to this kind of standard, then I think this will be a very impressive train indeed, and I'm sure it is. But anyway, let's get this down onto the track, because all of this means nothing if we can't haul this along high speed behind an A4. So let me find some other coaches which I can sneakily put with this, and we'll give that a try. So here is today's test setup then, and hopefully you can excuse me for this. So we're okay for the loco. I've got 4468 mallard, so that's all good. For the coaches, for the main body of the train though, I've had to go with the LNER Coronation coaches, which is obviously incorrect, but I wanted to show some sort of train. Luckily though, they do seem to match the A4 colour really nicely. And then of course we've got today's observation car at the back. Now, first of all, let's talk a little bit about the performance and the specs of this thing. So the weight is 132 grams, which for a pretty small coach I think is a decent weight. So it's relatively hefty, if not massively heavy, so it's not in the same league as the Dapol Toplight City coaches, but for what it is, the weight is absolutely fine. Because the wheels run in those bearings, it is very nice and free rolling. As you can see on the Gordon's Hill free rolling test, it went flying down with some great speed, only stopping on the curves at the bottom, and I think that's because the kinematic couplings turn and move with the bogies, and so once it gets to those second radius curves, those kinematic couplings kind of zap the energy from it. So yeah, I think it would have gone further if it didn't have those kinematics, but even so, perfectly free rolling. Right, the next thing I want to do is to test the lights. So without the loco on the track, I'm going to give this some power and take a look at the lights, hopefully working. Right, here we go then. Let me just pick a direction and give it some power. Oh yeah. So hopefully you can see that. We've got the lights coming on, and if I cut the power, the lights stay on. So we've got capacitors inside, which means the lights will stay on even if the power is interrupted. So that's really, really good. And you can't see the capacitors anywhere, which is great. So let me apply power again. Yeah. You might not be able to see this too well with all my lights, so let me just turn them off and we'll do that test again. Okay, one more time, power. Ah, there you go. Yep, we can see that. So yeah, full lighting, which is just great. And I've also just noticed working lamps. Wow, I did not expect those to work. They don't look as though they're connected to anything. That's a really, really awesome effect. So yeah, a full lighting package as well. This is why I'm happy to have paid what I did for this, because it's got the features to go with that price. Right, let's attempt a coupling then, and we'll see what this thing is like in motion. Now, my Coronation coaches have the large D-shaped tension locks, unfortunately, so I may have to assist them a little bit, but no, that has actually worked perfectly first time, so not bad. Right, let's see what the observation coach looks like then, going round as part of a train. Here we go. Right, so I've not set the A4 to go too quickly because I want to get a look at the coach as it goes by. But there we go, you can see the lights on the interior working. And we should get a good shot of the tail lights. Yep, you can see those. And it did those curves without any problems at all. So it's a great runner. The couplings worked perfectly, even though I was coupling up to sort of technically incompatible couplings, so that's really good. It's got all the detail you could want. The decoration is amazing. It's got the lights. Oh, it's got everything, hasn't it? So it's an expensive model, but do you get what you pay for? Yes, you do. And honestly, I am kind of regretting not buying a couple of packs of the regular coaches to go with this, because obviously now they've all gone. I mean, kind of not, you know, to have bought just 4 of the coaches would have cost, what was it, about 130 at the retailers, 135, so we're talking about at least £260 plus the observation car, so, you know, way over £300, and that's to do about half a train. So yeah, not something I felt I could afford to do, and so I think the price is the biggest downfall of these coaches, but I can't fault them. You know, what they're going to do, not produce them as well? Well, those 2 alternatives would not have been acceptable either, would they? So, you know, I'm glad that they pulled out all of the stops, I'm glad they did them properly, and I'm glad that these are great products, but, you know, for me to justify a whole set of these was out of the question. But I'm very glad I went for the observation coach, and I wonder if others did the same. It's also useful to know that it kind of looks okay with the Coronation coaches, the LMS ones. So at a push, if you just wanted to own one and you've got the Coronation coaches, that's an option as well. But yeah, overall, very, very impressed. What a wonderful, wonderful coach. Let's have some ratings then for Hornby's truly outstanding new LNER Coronation Observation Coach. And as you can see by my ratings, I'm certainly struggling to fault this. Certainly where the level of detail is concerned, I cannot fault it. So I've given it 5-star. Outstanding and innovative decoration, both inside and outside. That foil work on the outside of the body is incredibly effective and realistic, and the decoration on the sofas on the inside is mind-blowingly good as well. We've got sprung buffers, we've got underframe detail that you can't even see. You've got multiple options for connectors to connect the coaches together. You've got working lamps, working lighting on the interior, screw link couplings pre-fitted, and masses of interior detail as well as all the exterior detail. What more could this possibly have? I'm not entirely sure, so 5-star, absolutely wonderful. The performance, similarly, can't fault it. The couplings worked perfectly, it doesn't cause massive drag over curves, it's really free rolling, it stays on the track. Yeah, really, really top-notch performance, and it even has axle-based pickups so that there's no drag from wiper pickups as well. Brilliant. Now, quality, I've been maybe extra critical here. A couple of reasons why I didn't give this 5-star. First of all, plastic construction. Now, the plastic construction's not an issue with this. The weight is decent and the quality of the model otherwise is fine, but I think for the money, perhaps a little bit of metal would have been nice to see. The other thing is that Hornby have kind of admitted in the instructions that the foil finish, as great as it looks, is a little bit fragile. And they do say to handle this without touching the foil. That is kind of easier said than done. You know, when you're taking it out of the box, when you're putting it on the track, perhaps if you're trying to get it coupled up or exchanging the corridor connectors, it's very, very difficult to maintain that concentration and not put your fingers on any of that foil work because it's all over the thing. So yeah, it's a pity that that's not a little bit more hard wearing. Having said that, I've not had an issue with that on my example. It's just a bit scary handling the thing in case you do cause some of that foil to come off. Not sure how fragile the finish of that foil is. Maybe they're just being extra cautious by mentioning it in the instructions. Obviously, I don't want to start scratching at it to find out though. Either way, otherwise the quality is excellent. No visible glue, no wonky parts that I saw. Really, really good. Value then, similarly, I've given it 4-star. Now, the full RRP of £81.99, I can understand why it's quite expensive, but I do think that is a lot of money. I mean, that is almost locomotive territory, isn't it? The price I paid though, having pre-ordered this from Model Railways Direct, was £67.49, and I've got to say at that price, it's a lot more sensible. I am totally happy with this for that money because yes, it's only a coach, but it's got so much to it that I honestly think it's worth it. So it's not a bargain or anything, but I have given it 4-star because I think it's well worth the money. So overall then, that is 8.91 out of 10, a very good score and a grade of A, because of course it's got a grade of A, it's incredible. Into the logbook it goes then, and we are starting the year very, very strong here. It's top place, of course, and I think this is going to be quite difficult to beat. Wow, Hornby on a roll at the moment. 3 glowing reviews. Locomotion #1, thought that was great. The TT66, again, brilliant. And now this as a piece of 00 rolling stock, top notch. Hornby are on fire at the moment, aren't they? So there you have it then, folks. Thank you so much for checking in with this review. I hope you enjoyed it. It is a pity that these have all sold out though, isn't it? I mean, they barely arrived just before Christmas. Now that I'm starting to make videos in January, they've gone already. So, you know, maybe that tells us Hornby didn't quite produce enough to satisfy demand. It would have been nice to have had, you know, a couple of months for people to look at the reviews and make a decision on whether they want to own this stuff. So yeah, hopefully that's lesson learned. Hopefully Hornby won't make too few of products in the future. But then again, I suppose if it's covered their manufacturing costs, it is better than having loads of unsold stock that has then got to be discounted, or even worse, just kept in the warehouse, taking up space and therefore costing money. So yeah, it's a tricky balance, but I would say that these sold out very, very quickly, to the point where they could have sold quite a few more, which is also a shame. But yeah, love this, really do love this. Hopefully these will be back one day with another batch, maybe not immediately, but hopefully in the coming years. That would be nice to see. Anyway, if you've got the whole train of this stuff, do comment down below, let me know what that's like. I think I can guess. But, you know, any comments I would love to hear, because the other coaches are quite different from the observation coach, of course. But anyway, I think we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you again very, very soon for some more videos. All right, cheers folks, you take care.